Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks workshop. In a little better mood today. Things haven't gone quite like they did yesterday. 2 hours of just aggravation yesterday before the show. And I'll tell you what, it was a fun time. But today, things are looking up. So that'll show you how quickly things can change. No, everything's fine this morning with some rare exceptions, and I'll have to tell you about that. One of them's pretty sad, actually. But otherwise, things are going pretty well for me. 50 degrees here on the farm this morning. Good chilly fall type weather. Really enjoy this kind of weather myself. The fall is my favorite time of the year. A light winter is just fine with me too. Heavy winter, down in the teens. No, I'm not too much of a fan of that. In the 30s, I'm pretty good with that. That'd be a great winter. Looks like we got quite a few scrolling up the screen already. We got 33 viewers already. And that's just 33 viewers out of 97,323 subs. 97,323 subs. So we're growing up, just slow, but we're growing. At least we're not going down. I mean, that's another option, At least we're not going down. We will have a live band show on Thursday night, September 28th, with Gina Huizinga. And Gina is the fiddle girl. She smiles all the time, so you'll want to see that show on Thursday, September 28th. Be sure to set your clocks. Now, that's 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, so you'll have to make your compromises, or whatever you call that. You'll have to make adjustments so that you can be there on time. We will also be playing a live show at the Lyric Live Theater in Newburgh, Missouri on September 30th at 7 p.m. as well, which is just 2 days later. So we'll have a lot of playing with the band right about that time. We will be in Mountain View, Arkansas on October 19th through the 22nd. If you'd like to join us down there, send me an email, rosastringworks@gmail.com. And I will get back with you and tell you my text number so that you can get a hold of us while we're down there. Well, the mic and camera problems, I guess, are behind me. Sort of, kind of. They're never behind you. But at least the ones I had yesterday are behind me for now. Or I should say the ones I had from Friday through yesterday. Well, and I'll take the blame. Yeah, it was pilot error, sort of, kind of. But, I'll explain why it's sort of pilot error in a minute. But I'll just take the full blame at the beginning here and explain it to you. The pilot error part is that I didn't go through the details, and learn how to use the system properly. I just assumed it would work in a certain fashion and took off. Well, you know what assuming does. Everybody knows what assuming does. Well, anyway, to me, those assumptions are the way it ought to work, and I just assumed it would work that way. Of course, it didn't. So let me show you the system here and explain it to you, how it works and why I had a problem. First of all, you have a receiver unit. This is not the microphone. This is the receiver from the microphone. So the microphone's out wandering around. This is tied back to the camera. Here's the camera. So this gets plugged into the camera like so with a stereo cord. This is a stereo cord. And so this basically is just hanging around. So that's why I put on this little yellow flap. And you might think I could have done better than this, and I could have. But, this works. So I just use this little yellow flap. And I just clip the receiver unit right there. And that just, at least gives it some stability where it's not flopping around. And this is that DJI Pocket 2 camera. This is that stabilizing camera. This is the one that has the gimbal at the top up here that keeps the camera real steady. It's the same kind of camera they use on the drones, and it keeps the drone footage real stable. So it's a real good little camera for this purpose. And with the wireless mic, it's even better, of course. Then this system comes with 2 wireless mics. Now, out of the box, these are already paired together. So all you got to do is turn them on and they start working. They did that extra step for you. Keep those little things in mind because they did that for you. And anyway, so they're paired together. So all you really have to do to turn them on is just push this button, hold it for a few seconds, and you'll see it come on here, I think. There it is. It's coming on. It's got a little screen. Then you power on both of these mics. Now I'm going to power them on at the same time. And I wish I could hold that and power these on. And I'm watching for the little blue lights to come on and stay on. And they're on. You can see them there. And on this, and let's see here. I thought I had turned. So here we've got the, and try to get it up close where you can see it. You can see there's 2 lines going across the top, and of course I've got this where it defaults to off. I should have left it just on for this video. And then there's 2 little separate deals at the bottom there that show you the mics also. Out of the package, this is the way it works. And I don't have a problem with that. I think that's a smart idea. This one is on channel left, if you will. I'm just making it up. I don't know which one's which. It doesn't matter. This one's channel left. This one's channel right. Okay? That makes sense. If you got 2 people wearing them, you got 2 different people. One guy's talking out of the right speaker. The other guy's talking out of the left speaker. And, it works. And it's fine. And it also separates it so that you can edit it in the video editing and separate one person from the other if you want to. Mute one person or whatever. So that's good. It's a good design. I get that. To make one mic work on both channels, you have to press and hold. I'm going to show it up here if I can. So let's see here. Again, I got to turn it back on so you can see it. All right, so you can see the 2 things going across the top. If I hold both of these buttons on the bottom at the same time and hold them for a while, now there's just one line going across the top. That's called the merged mode, and that's the mode you have to have it in order for one mic to talk to both channels. Okay, I didn't do that. That was my fault. Pilot error. I get it. So I can't blame the mic for that or anything. In fact, I think this is a very good mic, a very good overall design. I really couldn't ask for more. It's very, very, very good. So I got no complaints, and I just want to be, upfront about that I think Rode did a wonderful job with their system. Where I think it fell short, that doesn't mean every single aspect is perfect. Overall, it's pretty good. But there's one aspect here, and it's because of my programming type background. Now, I was never a programmer, you understand. I just want to be clear about this. But I worked with a lot of programmers. I wrote requirements for systems. Just like if I were writing the requirements for this system, one of the requirements would be, because this thing's smart, it's no stupid system. It knows when there's one mic connected. It knows when there's 2 mics connected. And the reason you know that is because it shows one mic when you just have one mic turned on, and it shows 2 mics when you have 2 mics turned on. So it can tell the difference. And you can also manually switch it over so that one mic works on both channels. Presently, the way I have it set up, both of these mics are working on both channels right now. And that's okay. You could do that. You can't separate it in post. You can't separate it when you're trying to do the editing if you do it this way. But if I only had one mic on, it would be working on both channels. That part's a good design. So where did it fall short? Well, in my opinion, it's a programming thing. And let me explain it to you so that people that don't know anything about programming, I still think you'll totally understand this because it's black and white simple. And you know me, I always reduce everything down to the ridiculous and try to make it as simple as possible. So most programming, as in, I don't know, 75%, consists of if, then. If this situation, then that situation. Or if this happens, then this result. Or if this happens, then you do this. You know, you take this action. So if, then. That's all programming pretty much is. It's just thousands of lines of code. If this happens, you do this. If this happens, you do this. If this happens, you do this. If this, that's pretty much what programming is in basic understanding. Really, that's truly what it is. All right, so this thing's a pretty smart system. So, you know, it defaults to each mic working on one channel or the other, and that thing defaults to working with that. All they had to do is just put a couple more lines of code in there that says, if one mic is connected, send the signal to both channels. You know, if this, then send the signal to both channels. If two mics are connected, then send this signal individually to each channel. You know, one mic to each channel. And then they need to add a third line that says, if the user overrides it with a click here or there in the software, there's some software that comes with this that you can see on your computer, or you can actually do some of it through here too, just by pressing certain buttons in certain ways. If the user overrides that, then you just don't do anything, you just do what the user says. It's just a programming thing. It's not complicated at all. So, Rode, if you're watching me, I'm not picking on you too much here. I think you got a great system, but I do think you could easily incorporate that in there. So that, and see, here's the reason why I say you should incorporate that. Okay, let's just take a simple, silly example. You go get in your car, it's black, pitch dark out, you turn on your headlights. Wouldn't it be silly if you had to turn on, you know, if you had to flip a switch to get both lights to come on? I mean, like you go, okay, I'm turning on the headlights. This one came on. How come that one didn't come on? You have to remember that you have to push both buttons at the same time to get that one to come on. Be silly. It's the same way with this. Out of 1,000 people, how many do you think, if they were only using one microphone, out of 1,000 people, how many of those people do you think would only want to send the signal to one channel? My guess is maybe one, you know, because of some unique circumstance. The other 999 want this single mic to send the signal to both channels. Doesn't that make sense? It makes sense to me. I mean, if you're recording with just one mic, you want sound to come out of both speakers. So it just makes all kinds of sense to add that line of code or those few lines of code to your program to make that happen. I don't know. And, you know, there'll be somebody that'll defend them and say, you can't do that because of X, Y, Z. And, you know, I got that all the time from the programmers at Bell. And I would say I won 98% of those battles. There was a couple I might not have won, maybe just because of some particular reason that I didn't know about or something. But for the most part, this is a pretty smart system. You know, computers, you know, if it's just like anything. If you put good stuff in, good stuff comes out, you know, and if you just work that out, it'll work. You know, there's a way to make that work. You know, for the most part, you can program almost anything if you can logically explain it, if you can logically define it, if you can physically do it, then you pretty much can program it. Just that simple. If, then. That's pretty much all that it boils down to. If this happens, then this is what you do. Very simple. Programming is not nearly as complicated as you think it is. It's just that it is it's a particular language. There's many different programming languages. And, you know, that's just because many different people thought it up, you know. And that's really all that it boils down to. It's like French and Spanish and German and, all those kinds of different languages. You just have to learn it. Once you learn it, it's just about as easy as any other language, once you get it. All right, moving on. I also titled that little video that I put out yesterday of the shop tour. If you saw that, I'm assuming you did, the little shop tour video, I said it was filmed in 4K. Well, I went through the menus on this and selected the Pro Mode 4K by 60 frames per second. There's also a 4K 30 frames per second. But I went with the full big thing. I thought, let's just go for 4K 60 frames per second, see how it works. Everything says it worked. All the files looked real high end and everything, super high end, in fact. But when it got up on YouTube, for whatever reason, YouTube says it's 1080. I don't know what that caused that yet. One of the viewers pointed that out also. But I don't really know what's behind that yet. But everything from my end, at least when I did it, as far as I know, was 4K. So why it turned out to be 1080, I don't know. But I'll keep looking into that down the road. One person that I noticed yesterday's comments on that video in there asked, where do the stairs go? Well, the stairs are attic stairs. They just go up to the big, long attic. The attic is huge. It goes the full length of this building, and it's just an A-frame attic. I mean, it goes right down to the eaves. It's completely open. It's spanned with rafters. There's no cross members, no cross ties, anything. Well, actually, I think there is some cross ties right at about a little bit above your head. There's some cross ties, but you can walk the full length of the attic. It's a real big attic, dirty as it can be because all the eaves are open and all the dust blows up in there, and it's a filthy mess. It really is. But I do have a few things stored up there. Let's see. Okay, I told you there was some sadness too, and unfortunately, I've got a real good close friend that is dying. He was diagnosed with a terminal type cancer. I'm not good with this stuff. A sarcoma of some sort. And anyway, it's spread, I think, now to his lungs. It started on his leg. He had a giant lump removed from his leg. I mean, a big thing, like the size of a baseball, if not bigger. And he went through that. I mean, he's in his 80s, and he went through that like an absolute champ, You thought, well, he's over it. It's going to be fine, He didn't have any pain. He didn't even take any pain pills. I mean, now me, I'm telling you, I'd have been hunkered over in the corner crying, but he didn't have any problem with it at all. And unfortunately, it came back. And there's another spot about this big now on his leg that's growed up there, and it's just bad. And I think it's got into his lungs, the way I understand it. We went and visited him and his wife yesterday and took them a pie. It was a cherry and raspberry pie. Man, it was good. It really was good. And we had a nice long visit and chat. There's a music party for Gene this coming weekend down in Newburgh. And Gene's from over at St. James, but they're having it at a church in Newburgh. They're having a party. And I was supposed to be there, but unfortunately, it's bad, another one of those double-sided coin things. We're going to Ohio to visit with my grandsons and see them play football, and they're so excited about it that we couldn't possibly cancel that because we've already canceled on them a couple of times. Not because we had to cancel necessarily. Some of it was their canceling, and vice versa. Anyway, it's been 2 or 3 times now that we've rescheduled the trip to Ohio, and so I don't feel like we can cancel that this time. And so it just kills me that I won't be there for Gene's music party this coming Saturday. But I went over and played them a couple of tunes that I know were their favorite tunes that I do. And just spent a few hours with them. But even sadder part of that, I mean, he knows he's going to die within a couple of months. They've given him black and white, and of course you could always argue that doctors never know, and that keep up the faith and all that. Of course, you always say that to these people and stuff in these situations and circumstances. But the really sad part of this is the medical side of it, and that is that they offer up, I don't know, they're doing their best, I guess, but they're offering up some kind of hope, that if you take this pill, this might, and they use words like could, might, possibly extend your life, a few weeks to maybe a couple of months. And you think, well, it's worth taking the pill then, at $2,700 per pill. Ridiculous. Can you imagine being the person at the hospital that has to go in and tell parents that their little girl or their little boy might get their life extended Sorry about that, but you know what? I couldn't do that. I'd go up to the head guy at the hospital and I'd say, no, you have to go tell him. I couldn't tell him that. I'd say, I just quit, I couldn't do it. $2,700 per pill. Man, if this system isn't screwed up, I don't know what system is. It's just ridiculous. And anyway, so he told them he could not afford that, and there's no way he could afford that. And, I guess to the system's credit, I guess they have to get you to say that, so that they can put you in for a grant or something. So he is actually getting those pills, and he's getting them free based on this grant thing, but it's still, I don't know, it's some stupid game that they have to play, I guess. But can you imagine telling that to a parent? And these people are going through that, it's just terrible. I just feel so sorry for them. We have while we were there, we saw these paintings on the wall at Jean's house, and the painting was done by another late friend. Her name is Lynn Granneman, and it's a painting of our barn, or at least a piece of our barn. So here's a look at that. And you can see the upper left there, or at least it's on my left, is the painting of the barn. And there, this morning, I took the photograph, and I didn't get it zoomed out enough. I should have been out just a little bit further, and it might have looked a little more like it. But you can tell, I think, that it's the same picture. And anyway, I tried to get it about the same direction and angle and everything. Lynn was a really good little artist. Not anything famous, but she was a local artist and did a lot of work around here and did a nice job. She painted several things here on the farm while she was here during our bluegrass festivals that we held. Now I have a little video for you. Take a look at this. Well, my friends, we're down at the barn area, and you can see these rocks stacked on a pallet. My wife, Sue, did all that. Why would she do that? Because my daughter, Rochelle, in Ohio, has demanded that we bring her some rocks to finish a project she's doing on her new house place near the pool. Apparently they don't have any rocks in Ohio, so we're going to take them some. Yeah, so we got to drive because of that, we got to drive the big truck because you can't haul that. You'd be surprised how heavy that is. And we can't haul that in that little truck. And so we got to put that in the big truck. The big truck passes everything on the highway except a gas station. Pretty much the truth. Yeah, so we're hauling rocks to Ohio because they don't have any rocks. Of course, I'm being silly about that, but here's another little quick video that I took this morning. Well, it's a crisp, cold morning here on the farm. A little bit of fog. I haven't filmed my commute to work coming from this direction, so I thought I'd just show you. Here's the hydraulic brush hog that I built in the shop. Here's a hydraulic post hole digger. These are the real deal. They never break any pins or anything. If you're using those on the back of a tractor, they always break shear pins and stuff. Here's my hydraulic log splitter that works like a dream. I'd put this up against any commercial model. Here's my hydraulic thumb that I use to drag logs out of the wood primarily. Very handy. This was just put on an old worn out bucket, but it works pretty good. Here's a little attachment that I made for moving trailers around. You can see here that little quick attach. And then there's just another bucket there. Our forks for the front of the Bobcat. Another old bucket. Pallet of stone. Here's some of those stumps that we dug up out of the front yard. Still waiting to get their turn on the sawmill. Another big stump there, waiting for a turn on the sawmill. Here's a little bench. This is an elm tree. This is the hybrid walnuts, those two on the ends. This little one in between, I guess, is a hybrid walnut also. I'm assuming that it must have grown. I didn't even realize that little tree was there. But sure enough, it's kind of crowded in there. It shouldn't be that close together, really. There's some old implements there that need to be cleaned up and fixed up a little bit. And of course, we're back up here to the shop, and the dump truck project still looms over my head. There's an old doctor's buggy in there. There's my backhoe attachment and my sawmill, of course. And I'm going in the shop because it's kind of chilly out here this morning, and I don't have on much, just a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. Yeah, can you imagine hauling rocks that far? And yeah, people I noticed were commenting there are these magical rocks. Anyway, stuff happens. We're going to take a deep dive into this machine here. This is a Harbor Freight metal cutting bandsaw. It's a portable bandsaw. It's meant to be used, well, I can barely pick it up now, but it's meant to be used kind of like this, that you walk over and cut metal with it like so. It's got a handle and a trigger right here. This is the trigger. Now I have the trigger pulled by putting a wire tie around it. So I just have a tight wire tie around it so the trigger's always pulled on this. And therefore I ran the cord out of the machine into this little box, and the little box is just really an extension. All it is an extension cord. So I just, plug this into the wall. This little box here is no different than an extension cord, but I put a switch on it so that I can turn it on and off. Now I'll turn it on briefly because this thing is crazy loud. That's the only real negative to it. It is just crazy loud. You'll understand what I mean here in a second. Yeah, it's just crazy loud. It's just, it's geared low, I guess, for power and all that. And anyway, So I thought I'd try to show you how I built this. I don't know if you can see it very well, but you know, I've got just a piece of angle iron right here, and it's welded down to this steel plate. This is just a small steel square plate and angle iron. And then I think what I did was I drilled and tapped a screw hole right here on the side. Now there may have been a hole there for some guard or something. I don't know, but one way or the other, I got a screw hole in the side of this right here. And then I just put a socket head cap screw in there to, you know, to be able to, that's probably the first attachment of this thing to this base. And on the other side, let's see, turn it around this way, I think. On the other side, I did the same exact thing. I welded a piece of angle iron right here, and then I probably drilled and tapped a screw right here. And I made sure that it's not going to hit anything moving. You know, you got to make sure of those kinds of things, or you put a short enough screw that it won't hit anything, whatever the case is. And anyway, so those are my two attachment points. Then I also welded a little tab right here, and this just butts up to this. So it's just kind of a 3-point connection. This is not actually physically connected right here. It just butts up to that. And you know, and anyway, it's held very solid. It doesn't move at all compared to the base. It's very solid to the base. Now, when this comes from the factory, this table right here is very small. You know, when it's meant to be carried around portable, there's no table here, actually. It's a very small little shoe, if you will. So it's about, I would say it's about a third of the size of this table. But I thought, well, all I have to do is take the shoe off. There's two little screws right here. I took the shoe off and I just made myself a table. And, you know, I milled out this slot with my milling machine, and here too. And anyway, it's just a bigger table, or bigger shoe, if you will. That's really about 99% of it. You know, these blades are just the standard Harbor Freight blades. They're 44 7/8. At least that's what it says on the side of this thing here. I don't know if that's a standard size or what, but I know I ordered other blades off of eBay and they fit. And the ones I ordered off of eBay were Starrett. At least that's what they said. And those blades were absolute, complete trash. I mean, they were trash. They wouldn't even last one good cut. Where these cheap Harbor Freight blades, man, they cut like butter. They just cut and cut and cut and cut and cut. I mean, I couldn't even tell you the last time I changed the blade. I mean, they just seem to last seemingly forever. You know, they don't. But I mean, I've put 3 or 4 blades on this thing since I built it. But I built it 5 or 6 years ago, probably. At least, I would say at least 5 years ago. And I use it all the time. I mean, I really use it a lot. It's just handy to be able to control, and you can do precision cutting, you know, with this, where, like, you know, you can do that with a grinder and you can do it with other tools, but this is just real handy. And I'm really happy I have it. I mean, you know, it'd be kind of nice to have a great big dedicated metal bandsaw, but you're talking thousands of dollars versus, I don't know, I can't remember what I paid for it, but I'm going to just say a couple $100, you know. I don't even know if I paid that much, but anyway, it's pretty good deal. It's a 10 amp saw, so 10 amps is pretty powerful too. I've told you before, when you're buying power tools, look at the amperage. You know, if all things are equal, you know, like if the price is the same, the size is the same, whatever, you know, all the criteria is the same. But if the amps are different, always buy the tool with the bigger amperage, and you'll have way more power. Amperage is key to power when it comes to a power tool, or wattage. You know, anything that's higher is better, generally speaking. Not necessarily voltage. Voltage doesn't make much difference, but if the amps are higher or the wattage is higher, then that's the thing to go with. So there you go. That's the deal for putting the blade on. It just has a loosening deal here. This loosens. Whoops! There you go. Now we're going to be putting the blade on now, but that loosens this up. These blades are put on in a twist, which is really kind of awkward. And I got to be honest, this is probably the hardest thing on this. It's the way you have to put these blades on. They're kind of twisted. They're not crazy hard to put on, but they're not simple either. Yeah, and of course on camera, would you know that this is not going to be simple because it's on camera. Well, I don't know if I'll get it or not right here, and it's sitting in this awkward position. There we go. I think I got it. Well, I think, oops, it's real springy. That's your problem. It's real springy. All right, so now if I can put that back on there, put the tension back on. Now it's barely on down here, but it's been my experience that it goes on, it'll pull itself on. Now, it'll make a liar out of me on camera, but let me turn it on real quick and see if the blade goes back on like it usually does. Yeah, now it's back in line. So it's not bad for the blades jumping off. In fact, the blades tend to stay on very good. I think I maybe had it jump off one time when I got something snagged in it or something. But ordinarily, the blade stays on. So overall, I'd highly recommend this. I really would. It's if you do a lot of metal work, it's worth the time and effort to make yourself a bandsaw like that. And I really didn't feel like I would ever use the portable bandsaw. That's just not what I do and how I do stuff. I mean, I guess it would be handy sometimes, but the way I built this, all I have to do is undo 2 screws and it's automatically portable again. All I got to do is walk in, I'd have to cut off my wire tie on my trigger. That's the only thing I'd have to do to take it back to the original state. That was important to me too, was when I built it, I wanted to make sure that I could use it as a portable bandsaw if I ever needed to. So far, I've never needed to. Never needed to. So anyway, I think that's everything I was going to tell you and show you this morning. Let me start through the comments. Ken Solo, good morning. He was the first one there. Carolyn Fike, Ed Zimmerman, Bruce Hines. Yeah, Bruce says, I hope you have a better day than yesterday. Well, so far, everything's much better. Yeah, even visiting with Gene, yesterday is sick. He's actually still in pretty good shape right now. Even that was better than yesterday morning. Visiting with Gene it's always fun. He's a real good guy. He came out here one time and helped me with my hay baler, and he's got a lot of experience with old equipment and stuff, Anyway, he was able to fix our problem with our hay baler one time. Moving down through here, looking just for question marks. There's, I just see Razorback Rick there from Brisbane, Australia. Pretty cool. North Georgia there from Jeff Puris. Let's see. Danny Fisher, your Rode microphone sounded good yesterday evening. Well, thank you, Danny. I really do think these are great microphones. Got no complaints with them. I think their system's excellent. I think they could use a little bit more programming, a little bit more coding there to just make it default to the normal. Like it's really that simple. You just say, if there's one microphone, send it both ways. If there's 2 microphones, send one to each one. It's really no more difficult than that. And then the third factor is if the user overrode it, do what the user says. It's just that simple. Okay, moving down. Paul Akers has a comment there of what grit sandpaper do you use to do a neck reset on a guitar pull method on the heel? Well, Paul, probably if I was doing that method, which I don't hardly ever do, I would probably use a 220 grit with this new type of sandpaper. Even though 220 is really smooth, it that new type of sandpaper that doesn't build up, that stuff works great. And I like 220. That was kind of my go-to sandpaper for almost everything. But you got to use that new type of sandpaper that doesn't build up, which is that Pro 3M Pro something or other, Pro Blaster or something like that. I can't remember, but anyway, it's great sandpaper. Let's see. Michael 2X, he says, "Hey Rosa Meister, how many times have you knocked your nails off of my fingers?" I assume you're talking about. The first time I ever remember, I was just a little kid before school. It was before I ever went to school. I got them stuck in a car door, and man, I was screaming. I remember screaming as a little child, and the door was shut on my fingers, and I think I lost 2 fingernails on that deal. And from then on, your guess is as good as mine, but I'd have to say 2 or 3 dozen times. And I don't think I'm exaggerating. I really don't. I think 2 or 3 dozen times is probably pretty close. And I'm going to kill a fly. Did you guys feel that? I hit you right on top of the head. I don't know if I got him or not, to be honest. He might have got away. Driving me crazy, though. No, I would say a couple dozen times at least, for sure. Yeah, and maybe a dozen times since I've been on YouTube. Anyway, I've lost a lot of fingernails over the years. Yeah, and if you do the kind of works and things I do, it's just going to happen. There's not much. And, a lot of times it was firewood related. Like you pick up a great big heavy piece of firewood and you think you're clear or whatever, and you slide it and bang, it smashes your finger against something else that you didn't notice or see. And I've lost them that way several times, actually. Carolyn Fike says that makes her mad at all the greed. Yeah, there's so much greed in this world these days. I get it. It's expensive to come up with drugs. It's expensive to do these things. But there's another side to it also. And, it's, there's just a lot of overpricing, making their money back in so many ways, putting it in their pockets. I guarantee you, or just think about this for just 1 second. And if you disagree with this, then I would have to say you're pretty doggone naive. What do you think that the CEO of that drug company that makes that $2,700 pill, what do you think he'd have to pay for it if he was under those same conditions? I'm pretty positive it'd be a big old goose egg, and I'm pretty positive nobody would go to him and say, "Well, sir, you have to tell us that you can't afford this so we can put you on a grant." I'm pretty positive he'll get all of them he wants for nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's just not right. The whole thing's just not right. It's so screwed up, and the sad part of it is, it'll never be fixed, and certainly not in my lifetime. And I don't think it'll ever be fixed because there's just way too much greed, too much people putting the money in their pockets. I get that there's lab costs. I get that there's huge overhead. I get that there's development costs. But, I also know that for a short time, I worked in the benefits department of Southwestern Bell, AT&T. And I worked with a lot of drug companies, and we were working with, trying to control costs and things. And their mentality, and they're pretty crash about it. They don't much care if you know it. Their mentality is, put it out there. It'll make $1 billion. Yeah, if it kills a few people, we'll have a few $1 million lawsuits. but it takes $1,000 million, 1,000 piles of $1,000,000 to make 1 billion. If the drug makes $10 billion, who gives a rip if they have, 50 lawsuits for $1 million each or $5 million each? They don't care. And they're pretty crash about it. They know that. It's just such a screwed up system that it is just ridiculous. It's just sad. It's just so sad. And I sure wouldn't want to be the one to go up and tell that parent. I just wouldn't want to be that guy. Let's see, moving down. Lots of condolences there, thank you. Cup of Cool, Jerry, I don't have to meet you in person. Well, I'm not going to read the rest of that one, but thank you. Moving on down. Let's see. Alonzo, I see some question marks. Hi, Jerry. Did you find something on the dump truck bed frame? I left a comment on yesterday's video with a link to the drawing from Ford. Well, I looked at the comments on. Well, maybe I didn't either. I think I'm thinking of the other video that I released last night. I looked at those comments. Maybe I need to go back and look. So thank you, Alonzo. I'll definitely check that out. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I didn't really find anything concrete out. JR swears up and down that it's bent. It looks natural to me. I mean, it looks like it was from the factory to me, bent that way. I'm usually hard to fool and stuff like that, but that could be fooling me. I mean, it could be, but I don't think it is. I think that's the way it was made. And like I said, I saw another dump truck in the same kind of class, not a giant dump truck. This was another small dump truck like that. And it had the same curve and the same gap at the back, and it was flat on the front, just like this one. So I kind of think it's right. And even if it's not right, I think I'm going to go with it and just brace it up like somebody said, box it in and all this kind of stuff. I'm going to, definitely, it's going to be a lot more skookum to, before I put the bed back on it. It's going to be really stout. But I was just trying to find out before I, screw up and do something. But I think I can live with it either way. I kind of think I'm just going to live with it bent down and just make it really stout and, make it work from there. So that's the story with the truck. Bob Scott's asking about that too. And, that's just where we're at with it. I won't get much done this week, to be honest, because we're getting things ready to go to Ohio, and there's a lot of this little miscellaneous stuff that has to be done between now and when we leave. We will not have, is that the fly again? We will not have a shop talk on Friday morning, so just so you know. Let's see, moving down. Benita Drager says the buggy would be an awesome vehicle for olive oil. I knew somebody was going to point that out. Yeah, and I'm not sure that he couldn't fit in it, but I'm wondering if he's quite a bit bigger horse, and I'm wondering those I can't, I know the names of the pull parts. I can't think of what you call that right now, that tongue or whatever, for lack of a better reason. It's a double tongue thing, and I'm not sure he could fit between there, but I think he probably still could. He's not that big yet. He's getting bigger all the time, but he could probably fit through there. Let's see. Cup of Cool. I know you have retired from guitar building, but I would so love to see what kind of 3-string cigar box guitar you could build. Well, no disrespect at all. No, and I don't mean any disrespect in this statement, but I am not into novelty instruments at all. I don't like them. I don't care for them. They're just not my thing at all. I have no desire whatsoever and never will build one of those things. Now, my buddy, in fact, I mentioned him in the Black Diamond String song that I rewrote. I said, Larry Thomas taught me how to play. Larry Thomas, he built a mandolin in my shop and did a real nice job. He built his own banjo. But then later in life, before he died, he got into building those novelty instruments. And he was pretty good at it. But you know what? I just can't see it. I have no desire, no interest. In fact, you'd have to pay me big bucks to even consider making one. So again, like I said, no disrespect. It's just everybody has different ideas and different things they're into. And I am definitely not into one of those things. So you'll never see that happen. Sorry. It just is one of those deals. Bill Dedrick says, did you ever meet your Senator Josh Hawley? No, I never met him personally, but I ain't got nothing good to say about any politician, so it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, but I am super sour on politicians. I mean, I know, just like every kind of thing in the world, there's always exceptions. So just know I say that, and know I know it, and know I believe it. There's always exceptions. But in general, pretty much every politician needs to be in jail. And that's, anybody above, especially above at the full state level and above, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much how I believe. I really do feel that way. If you or I did even one half of the stuff those people do, we'd be in jail because we can't get away with it. But they can because everybody's got their hand in the other guy's pocket, and they're all helping each other out and patting each other on the back. It's a good old boys club type thing, and it just ain't right. It's part of what's problem. It goes back to that greed thing. Almost every single thing you can name in this country that's got a problem, if you trace it back far enough, it'll be back to some kind of a greed issue, whether it's greed for fame and fortune, or greed for just money alone, or it's pitiful. It's just absolutely sickening pitiful. So I hate politics. That's why you never really hear me discuss politics at all on the channel. I don't like to discuss religion either, and it's for some of the same kinds of reasons. I think everybody understands already that I'm, certainly a believer, but on the other hand, I don't like to push my beliefs on other people, and I don't like it when they push their beliefs on me. And so that's one of the main reasons I don't like to discuss religion. So anyway, moving on here. Again, Cup of Cool, I just want to make sure you understand, I don't mean any offense in my statement. I'm just not into those kinds of instruments at all. Bill Dedrick, did you ever... No, I already read that one. Marigold Time, she was from Sweden, I think. Yeah, there she is. So sorry about your friend. Well, thank you. Bill Dedrick says, totally agree. I think you're talking about the politics. Over the next hill, gang, I have a lot of fret dents in a very old Yamaha. Is the only fix replacement? No. That's the other, I wouldn't call it a myth. It's just a widely held belief, is that most people think that first of all, they always think their dents are way worse than they are. That's the first thing. They look deeper than they truly are. They always look deeper. It's kind of a mirror effect. I'm not saying that some people don't have really deep dents, because that does happen too. But for the most part, and I'm talking the 90% rule here, 90% of people that come in and say, oh, you're going to have to replace these frets. These are really badly worn frets. I look at them and I go, not that bad at all. I just file them down, recrown them, and go. And you can do that usually two or three times. I've had people just absolutely say I'm an idiot for saying that. They just say, oh, there's no way. You can't file frets 2 or 3 times. Well, I've only done it for 40 years. I guess I know what I'm talking about, And so anyway, my point is that most likely your frets, even as bad as you think they are, they're probably not that bad. You take your leveling fret file. Let me just get the files here. I've shown these a million times, but I'll just show them to you again. I made this leveling fret file. This is just a it's a 6-inch mill bastard file is what they call this, a mill bastard file. And it's just a single cut file. And you can see mine's even got a little glaze on it there because it's been used so much. I've filed so many frets with this, but it still cuts pretty darn good. And the only thing about making one of these deals, and I just made my thing out of a piece of maple, this handle, and you just make it to fit your hand the way you like it to feel. There's no right or wrong to that. But there is one right or wrong to the way you put this file on your handle. And I've even had people tell me I'm an idiot on this. And that is every single file. Now, I didn't say some. I said every single file has a slight curve to it. I've never seen one that was absolutely perfectly straight. Now, granted, it's crazy hard to see it, but they're there. If you look down it, every file has a slight curve. Now, I'm talking a couple thousandths from this end to this end. That ain't easy to see. But if you look at it and you can tell, okay, yeah, I can see it's got a 1,000th, 2,000th curve this way. Then I'm exaggerating, but you want the curve like this. You don't want it like this. So in other words, when I glued this on here, it's convex on this side, concave on the attachment side. And I glued this on there, according to my viewers, because I didn't remember, I glued this on there with that epoxy, JB Weld. And anyway, that's the only thing I've ever glued with JB Weld that's held. I'm not kidding you. That's the truth. That is the only thing that I can remember that it's ever held. But anyway, that's the main thing. You got to have that. And basically, you start out kind of light and you go the full thing. And the thing about this is you don't stay in one spot ever. You never file frets like that. You kind of... And then I say never. That's not true either. Every once in a while, you'll have a really bad spot, and then you'll want to work it. But you don't stay in one spot. You kind of work that area. You know what I mean? You work around. And you keep, and like if your fretboard is arched like this, well, then you kind of follow that arch. You don't want to try to file it flat, So you kind of work, you just work it like this. And you'll feel it, and you'll feel especially on those high frets that it'll grab. And you'll get a feel for it. Anyway, your point is you keep working the whole area down and until you get almost the whole dent out of the fret. And when I say almost, it's like you just want the least little hint of it still there. That way you know you didn't go too far. If you take it all out, you don't really know where you're at now. So I'm talking the least little hint. So just enough that you can still see it. Once you get there, then what I typically do is take like 600 sandpaper and I just rub the whole length of the fretboard like this really quickly. I do it that way on purpose. I know that the conventional wisdom is you go with the fret across the fretboard. You sand them that way. I don't like that method. For one thing, you're sanding one individual fret and you could lower that fret. Just a couple thousandths makes a difference. You can create a buzz with just a couple thousandths off. So I like to file them, sand them this way. And what you'll really find out is when you sand them this way, it will round them off really quickly. Actually, I probably got that out of order. You probably do want to lightly crown them with this file first. So you have, it doesn't have to be this specific file, but you need a fret recrowning file. And you want to go over each individual fret. And again, what you want to do there is, now you've got a flat spot on the top of that fret. You don't want to get rid of the entire flat spot. You want to get it almost rid of it. Again, it's the same kind of concept. Once you get rid of it, you don't know how far down you are. So just leave the least little tiny bit of a flat spot on the top of all your frets. That way they're all still perfectly level. Then you do the sanding thing like I just mentioned. I got them out of order there. But anyway, you want to do the rounding and that sanding, you'll be surprised, will really smooth the frets off, make them look like brand new. And then if you want to, then you can, after you've done that with like 600 grit sandpaper, then you can polish each fret with the semi-chrome polish that we've shown. The products, most of the products are on my products I use page of my website. But that's kind of the gist of it. I would say almost 9 out of 10 people will say, I need to have these frets replaced, when really all they need is a good leveling. I would say at least 90%. Okay, let me look real quick and see if we got anything else, and then we're going to get off here. Greg Lance, I think, says, saw your video yesterday. I may have missed. Do you have dust extractor or just the shop vac? There is a lot of talk about welding fumes being bad for your health. Yeah, I'm sure it's not good, Greg, but I don't have a fume extractor. I wish I did. I've got those big doors, and anytime I'm welding, I pretty much open the doors, and a lot of times I'll turn on a fan and blow it outside. I know I'm not trying to buck the system. I get it, and it's not good for you. I just try not to get right in the path of breathing it, So I do pay attention to that, but I don't have the fancy equipment to get rid of it. Thomas Armstrong, have been using a laser welder to repair jewelry for years and wouldn't be surprised if fret wire dents are filled in by laser by future luthiers. That's a thought. Yeah, I guess that could happen. I've never thought about that. Cup of Cool. Trust me when I say no offense taken. Well, thank you. So about his 3-string guitar. Yeah, I have never been a fan of novelty instruments. I never have been. And I even consider like the banjo lean, the mandolin banjo combination, that kind of thing. Those kinds of instruments, those are novelty. They're not mainstream. If they're not mainstream, I don't much care about them. Now, I'll repair them and fix them if somebody brought them to me. I didn't care about that part. I'd repair them and fix them because they want it. It's important to them. But I sure wasn't going to go out and build one, But anyway, that's about it for today. Thank you for being understanding. I hope nobody out there has to pay $2,700 for a cancer pill. See, and the other side of that, the last part of that, and I'll quit talking about it, is there's no guarantees. They don't even apologize for no guarantees. You're going to pay $2,700 for this stupid little pill, and we're not going to guarantee nothing. We don't know if it's going to help you. We don't know if it's going to hurt you. We don't know if you're going to get an extra day. We don't know if you're going to get an extra 6 months. We don't know nothing. But we're going to charge you $2,700 for that stupid little pill. Bad. Bad news, bad news, bad news all the way around. I pray that none of you have to go through that. We'll see you tomorrow.